Hello, everybody, and welcome to our lunch and learn class. Unfortunately, still without the lunch. We look forward one day to serving you lunch, so I hope the lunch that you prepare for yourself at home is as good as Mira's lunch. Um, so we're going to start today our summer semester, although we didn't break between the spring semester and the summer semester. We're going to go right into it. And we're going to go for 6 weeks, and then we'll take a little bit summertime off, and we'll get back together in the fall. And hopefully when we get back in the fall, there'll be some type of in-house study. But I believe that the Zoom recording will remain part of our future lunch and learn class, so that you'll have both options of coming and studying in-house or staying home in your pajamas and studying that way. Your call, your choice. Today we're going to begin the portion of Akev. I do have an announcement to make. We've been doing the drive-by Kiddush because we can't serve a Kiddush in our shul on Shabbos, so we do a drive-by on Friday, and we give out some of the treats that we would normally have at our Kiddush lunch on Shabbat. So this week we have a very special one. We're going to be giving out cholent, kishka, and kugel. So if you want to get some homemade cholent and kishka and my wife's kugel, you have to come by here at Chabad between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock and just drive on by, and the gift bag will be given to you. But you do have to reserve in advance so we know how many to prepare for. All you have to do to reserve is call 818-991-0991 or drop me an email and we'll put you down. So that's this Friday's Drive-By Kiddush. As many of you may have heard, the shul is back open under different rules and codes right now that we have to follow of social distancing, but physically the shul is open on Shabbat. We do have Friday night services and Shabbat services. And again, it has to be by reservations only during this period of time so that we can set up the amount of seats needed for the people interested in coming. So if you'd like to join us for Shabbat services, it is mandatory for now that you do come with a mask. We do provide the prayer books for you, but do let us know in advance that you're coming, just simply dropping me an email and I'll make the reservations for you. I sent out an email for those that had made reservations up until yesterday for this class of the first few verses of the portion of Akev. It's also available, I believe, there's some type of chat on the bottom. There's a link to it if you would like to follow. But if you don't have the copy in front of you or you don't want to go into any chat links, I'm going to read it to you so you don't have to worry about it. You'll get the gist of what the subject matter is about. So I'm going to begin reading to you. This is the beginning of the portion called Akev. It's part of the Deuteronomy. It's the middle of chapter 7. It's verse 12 of chapter 7. And it begins as follows. V'haya Akev tishmu'un es hamishpatim ha'ela. This is again setting the scene for you. This is Moses' final speech to the Jewish people. The Jewish people are standing at the eastern side of the Jordan River, directly across from Jericho, and they are poised to enter the promised land. That's where this speech is taking place. And in this powerful speech, which takes up the whole of the book of Deuteronomy, Moses is giving them strength. He's giving them encouragement. He's giving them inspiration. It's a stay the course like speech. Keep the commandments. He's reviewing the past 40 years. And there are times that Moshe will use really inspirational language, powerful language. And again, I'm going to read to you these opening verses of this portion. It will be because you will heed these ordinances and keep them and perform them, that the Lord your God will keep for you the covenant and the kindness that he swore to your forefathers. And he will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your soil, your grain, your wine, your oil, the offspring of your cattle, and the choice of your flocks in the land which he swore to your forefathers to give you. You shall be blessed above all peoples. There will be no sterile male or barren female among you or among your livestock. And the Lord will remove from you all illness and all the evil diseases of Egypt which you knew, He will not set upon you, but he will lay upon all of your enemies. And you shall consume all the peoples with which the Lord your God gives you. And you shall not spare them, nor shall you worship their gods, for that will be a snare for you. Will you say to yourself, these nations are more numerous than I? How will I be able to drive them out? There's going to be clearly powerful nations over there. And you may worry, how are we possibly going to survive an attack on a nation that has some very powerful armies? You shall not fear them. You shall surely remember what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and to all of Egypt. The great trials that your eyes saw, the signs, the wonders, the mighty hand, and the outstretched arm with which the Lord your God brought you out, so will the Lord your God do to all the people you fear. And also the tsira, which is a type of insect, the Lord your God will incite against them until the survivors and those who hide from you perish. You shall not be terrified of them, for the Lord your God who is in your midst is a great and awesome God. Those are the first 21 verses of the portion. You get the sense of it. Keep the commandments, keep to the mission that God gave you, and there'll be tremendous blessings that come along with following the ways of God. Blessings in wealth, blessings in family life, blessings in protection. But then Moses turns the focus on the entering of the land. And there's something very interesting that he says there. He says, these nations are more numerous than us. How will I be able to drive them out? It's a little bit interesting here that Moses is actually acknowledging to them that they're about to face a formidable enemy. And one can ask the question, why is Moses making mention of that? If he mentions that these armies are very strong, is that not going to bring fear into the people? Now, we know that in the past, anytime these people were filled with fear, they revolted, they ran, they didn't have the strength to face it. So why mention this doubt that Moses says, and you're going to wonder, how are you going to face these powerful armies? Just issue a directive not to fear the enemy. Don't talk about the size of the enemy. Simply say, God will take care of you. Don't worry about the enemy. But he triggers this fear, this uncertainty, when he says, and those armies happen to be very big, much bigger than you. And we'll see this later in the portion as well, in this particular portion. We're going to see that Moses reminds them of an episode. Let me tell you about it now. The Jewish people are in the wilderness, they're in the desert for 40 years at this point. Now, it wasn't planned that way. The Israelites were destined to settle their land shortly after the Egyptian Exodus. They go out of Egypt, they make their way to Sinai, they get the 10 Commandments, and from there it was supposed to be onwards to the Promised Land. But it wasn't that way. There was a detour. Why was there a detour? Why was there a detour that lasted for 40 years? The answer is that there were a group of spies that were sent from the wilderness into the land of Canaan, which eventually became the land of Israel. And their job was to find the strategic entry points where the Jewish people would be able to make their entrance into the Promised Land. And what happens with this group, 12 spies go into the land, 10 of them will come back with a negative report. They'll say, and I quote from the portion of Shalach from the book of Numbers, I'm just quoting for you, however, the people who inhabit the land are mighty, and the cities are extremely huge and fortified. And there we saw even the offspring of the giant. So imagine you're a group of freed slaves, and you're told you're about to enter into the Promised Land. And this group of people come back and say, Promised Land, we just saw it. Oh, my goodness, it's fortified. They're powerful. They're strong. There's giants there. We are unable to go up against the people, they said, for they're stronger than we. What does that do to your psyche? You stop becoming petrified yourself. You've done this in Egypt. You've had enemies that were stronger than you. Why do it again? I continue reading from the quotes of the book of Numbers that tells us the story of the spies. They spread an evil report about the land which they had scouted, telling the children of Israel, the land we passed through to explore is a land that consumes its inhabitants. And all the people we saw in there are men of stature. It's just a powerful nation. There we saw the giants again. They talk about the giants, descendants of giants. In our eyes, we seem like grasshoppers. And so we were in their eyes. This terrifying report about the strength of the enemy hit the mark. And the Jewish people lost their morale. They ducked in fear. And suddenly they wanted to go back to Egypt. We're not interested in the promised land. We're not interested in Israel. Let's go back to Egypt. We don't want to face these giants. We don't want to face a fortified city, a powerful city. And God was very disappointed in the reaction that the Jewish people had. And he indeed said, you know what? You don't want the gift I'm about to give you? You're not going to get it. That fear was the cause of their defeat. And for that, they would remain in the wilderness for another 4 decades. And only their children, they would enter into the promised land in this period of time that we are studying now with Moses. So at last, 40 years of a consequence of a mistake is over, right? We've gone through 40 years. Now we should learn our lesson. What was our lesson? Don't instill fear in the Jewish people. They don't do well with fear. And we opened the portion today with Moses saying, I know we're going into a country of strong men and strong people. What are you saying, Moses? You're doing this all over again. We just did 40 years because of it. I'll read to you again the portion that we're studying now. This comes from 2 chapters further, chapter number 9. And it's again Moses speaking. And Moses is again, he's going to talk about the episode of the spies from 39 years earlier. And listen to what he says. Listen to the words. This is Moses. Literally, they're days away from making the march into the land of Canaan, into the land which will become Israel. They're on the other side of the Jordan River, and the Jordan River is not a wide river. So they're right there. They're in visual difference of the distance of the promised land. And again, we get Moses' speech, but suddenly he seems to be instilling fear within them, which is a surprise to us because that always backfires. I read to you. He says, Shema Yisrael. Now we know how holy those words are. He uses those words again. Shema Yisrael. Hear, O Israel. Today you are crossing the Jordan to come in to possess nations greater and stronger than you. Here he goes again. Great cities fortified up to the heavens. You're not giving them any confidence in that. The next verse. A colossal and towering nation, the children of giants, whom you know and of whom you have heard, saying, who can stand against the children of the giants? Again, you're Moses. You're trying to boost the confidence so we can do this. And what's he saying? We're about to go into where? And he's repeating the same lines that the spies said 39 years earlier that led to the difficulties. And he concludes in verse 3, you shall know on this day that it is the Lord your God who passes over before you as a consuming fire. He will destroy them and he will subdue them before you, and you shall drive them out and destroy them quickly as the Lord spoke to you. Moses is repeating almost verbatim the words that the 10 spies uttered 39 years earlier, which caused an unparalleled catastrophe, and it derailed Jewish history from its course. After everything they have been through, Moses repeats, as I say, almost verbatim, the terrifying and destructively impactful words of the spies, which brought terror and dread in their brethren 39 years earlier. Their fathers heard this and panicked and wanted to go back to Egypt. And here is Moses, the shepherd of Israel, the faithful shepherd of Israel, the leader making his final speech, the man who spoke about how bad of a sin the spies did 39 years earlier, and he seems to be doing the exact same thing. More so, if you actually put side by side and compared the words that the spies said versus the words that Moses says, Moses goes even worse. The Spies said the cities were extremely huge and fortified. Moses says cities that are great and fortified up to the heavens. So he didn't just leave it that they were fortified. He said, no, they're fortified up to the heavens. And Moses begins this with those famous words, Shema Yisrael, which means these are important words for you to know. And what's important for you to know? That you're about to enter cities which are fortified up to the heavens, and they're powerful, and they're giants, and they're the children of giants. How are we to understand Moses' speech over here in this portion where he seems to talk about the greatness and the power of the cities? He uses terms like a colossal and towering nation. All that brings fear to people. It's as if he's trying to invoke what happened decades ago when the Jewish people heard this message that no one can stand up to these giants. It looks like Moses is trying to arouse the fear yet again. And the timing just makes so little sense to us because he's so protected about this final speech. It's so critical that this speech comes out right, that this speech gives them the courage and the strength to go into the land. No more delays. The speech is supposed to inspire them to stay the course for thousands of years, for all of eternity. So why bring fear into this? You know, there was an episode, we studied the episode in text, perhaps it was a year or two ago. It was also during this final time of Moses' life. And again, the Jewish people are now situated in what is today the Jordan. Or it would be what today would be the Golan Heights, in that particular area as well. So it stretches along the Jordan River. And two tribes come to Moses. And they say to Moses, again, they're not in Israel yet because Moses is still alive. Moses won't enter the land of Israel. They say to Moses, you know, the land here is beautiful. And there's a lot of grass. And we have a lot of flock. And you know what? We like to stay here. We won't go into the land of Israel. We'll just live here. This is fine for us. Can you give us this land? And Moses is so angry at the request. He's so upset at the request. Now, why is he upset? He wasn't upset that they're asking about having a piece of land. But he's saying, look at your timing. We're about to enter into this land. It took us 40 years of wandering. If you go public with this request, what it's going to do is it's going to diminish the excitement for the land. Then people are not excited about it anymore. And they're going to say, oh, there's powerful armies there. Let's not go. Let's all stay here. That's what you're doing. You're doing the same work as the spies did earlier. It's a dangerous thing you're doing. And these two tribes were very respectful, and they understood what Moses was saying. And they said, no, Moses, we'll make a deal with you. The deal is that we will march into the land of Israel with the rest of the tribes. We will fight the battles, and we will promise that we will not return to this land until every single inch of Israel has been settled by the Jewish people. Until the wars are over and everyone has their settlement, we won't come back here. And when Moses heard that, he understood their sincerity and he was okay with it. But his initial response to them is, don't do anything that would dampen the enthusiasm, the excitement, and the courage to march on into the land of Israel. And here Moses seems to be doing exactly the same thing. How are we to understand this? And perhaps what we see here is an extremely overriding important principle of all of Judaism. And that is, you have to always present the truth. Moses is not going to sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. He's not going to paint a rosy picture of reality. He won't manufacture a fairy tale to provide people with false hope. Moses is true, and his Torah is true, and every word that comes out of Moses' mouth is true. That's the hallmark of Moses. That's the hallmark of Torah. Emes and Torah are synonymous. It seeks nothing but truth. The Torah is about reality. It conveys to us the truth about ourselves, the truth about the universe around us, the truth about the past, the truth about the present, and the truth about the future. So when Moses wants to prepare his people to enter the land, he will not paint a glowing fictional picture and mislead them about the truth. Rather, he will say, Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel. Today you are crossing the Jordan to come in to possess a nation that is, yes, greater than you, stronger than you, and it has cities and it's fortified and they're powerful and they have sons of giants. All that is true. Because if he was to inspire the people based on exaggeration or based on suppression of facts, if he was to cover it up and say they're just a weak nation, you will score points short term. Yeah, right then they'll be confident. But at some point you'll lose credibility when they discover the truth, when they know you lied to them, and then they'll be frightened, and then they'll run away. You are confronting a colossal and towering nation, he says, the children of the giants who you know and of whom you have heard people saying, who can stand up against the children of the giants? So I'm telling you, says Moses, that was true what the spies said. What you heard from your parents' generation, that the spies said that the nations are strong, that they're powerful, that they're fortified, all that is true. I'm not going to whitewash that away. It's a rough terrain. It's a dangerous war. It's not going to be easy. You're going to face resistance, and you might want to retreat. But Moses here continues, and he says, but you guys need to know, you more than anyone else, that you have God on your side, and that's the missing part of the equation. If this was just left for the natural, we would lose this war and we wouldn't entertain the war. But it's God telling us that this is his land that he's giving to us. And he's telling us that he will be with us in battle. So we will see miracles. Proof? Did you not see miracles in the past? Did you not see miracles in Egypt? Did you not see miracles in the splitting of the sea? Did you not see miracles every single day in the wilderness when manna fell from heaven? Did you not see miracles in the battles that took place in the wilderness? You've seen miracle after miracle. So long as we follow the instructions from God, we're going to be okay. Difficult battle? Yes. Fortified cities? Yes. Giants over there? Yes. All that was true. But when the spies said all of this, the spies said a result, and they said, and therefore we will never be victorious. They had no right to say that, because victory is in God's hands, not in their hands. And that explains why Moses is saying this to them. I want you to know that there are fortified cities. And when you start this battle and you're going to see them, it's going to bring fear, but don't run away. Remember what took place in Egypt. Pharaoh was more powerful than us. We were a bunch of slaves. Pharaoh's army was more powerful than us. We were a bunch of slaves. And yet we got our freedom. We had the Exodus. How? Because God was with us. So what Moses is saying is that you're about to enter a challenging environment, one that will bring about the question, how can we do it? So I'm telling you, says Moses, fear not. Your departure from Egypt was no small feat, and that same God that was with us in Egypt is the God that's going to take you into the promised land. When the Jewish people heard this message, they felt more empowered. They felt more invigorated, because now they knew what they were facing. They knew what to expect. There's going to be no surprises. And they could now enter the mission with their entire being, with their full self, informed with facts and with truth, and aware that they can embrace their destiny with a clear mind, with a sober heart, with absolute honesty and truth. And so long as they hold on to that faith in God, that God will be with them, they'll be okay. See, Moses' way of dealing with the debacle of the spies was not by denying reality, not saying the spies don't know what they're talking about, it's a weak land, we have nothing to fear. He doesn't want to sell them a fictional narrative, because that would explode in his face. That would have accomplished nothing. Moses' message was the exact opposite. You have heard that nobody can stand up before these giants because no one has before, but they haven't faced an army like ours that is equipped with the blessings of God. That is what hasn't happened yet in history. And that's what's about to happen. And that is something we can accomplish. And that is something we can do because we've already seen us able to accomplish it. So you're a people who can take on grueling goals. You can accomplish what might seem like the impossible. For God, the creator of the possible and the impossible, is right here with you. And with this, Moses not only earned credibility, but also showed them the true power and strength. He taught them who they were and what they were. He taught them what they're capable of. He instills them with this fire, with this passion inside their heart. And this is perhaps a powerful lesson to all of us, not just going back to biblical times, book of Deuteronomy, but each of us have our own promised land to conquer, our own dreams, our own visions, our own goals. And we each have our own Jordan River that we need to cross to discover our ultimate destiny, to find our happiness. There are obstacles, though. And the obstacles in our own journey, in our own lives, are quite formidable. So sometimes we have friends that try to convince us that it's not really an obstacle. Oh, you're thinking you're making too much of it. Don't worry about it. Now, sometimes that might be true. And sometimes we try to convince ourselves that it's true. And then when we hit these roadblocks and we hit these obstacles, we give up rather fast because we weren't prepared for them. Moses is giving us a different message. Moses is telling us sometimes the task in front of you is very hard, is very difficult, is very challenging. But who said you're not capable of achieving daunting tasks? Who said you can't climb fortresses that reach the heavens? If you realize, if you believe that God is with you and that God has given you strength, then you can stare the bull in the eyes and say, yeah, this is scary and this is unnerving, but I'm ready to take it on because I know that God is there with me, holding me, allowing me to get through. Yeah, I have some really challenging things to confront. And I may have some turmoil that I need to juggle, emotional turmoil, financial turmoil, whatever it may be, things that hold me down. And they're real and they're difficult. And I can't just make believe that they're not there because they are there. The Torah doesn't tell us that life is a journey through la la land and that faith is bliss. The Torah tells us that every day has moments when we want to throw in the towel. Every day have those moments that we just feel we can't do it. And Moshe is telling us, I know those days are coming. And I know at times the challenges will look like they're fortresses that reach the heavenly world and you cannot get through them. And the only way to do is you take that deep breath and you know the challenge is great before you and you say that prayer to God, I know you're with me and I'm only going to get through this with you by my side. Imagine you're about to embark on a hike and the guide says to you, I just want you to know today's hike is an easy hike. It's no big deal. It's an easy one. Today we're doing an easy one. And you start going on this hike and you embark on this steady, deep incline for miles on a rocky terrain and it's hot. The heat is smoldering. Not only do you stop trusting the guide, but you feel demoralized and sapped from your vitality. You were expecting an easy hike and you're not ready for this. You didn't psych yourself up for this. You were prepared for something easy. This wasn't easy at all. Most people quit in the middle because they weren't ready for this. They didn't ask for this. And they just drop out and they'll never go back to this hike guide again. But what if the guide said this to you? I want you to know today's hike is tough. It's grueling. The terrain at times can be torturous. But I promise you this, I know you, and I know you can do it. You probably don't think you can, but I have confidence in you that you can. And I'm going with you, and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to push you literally with encouragement, with words of encouragement to make that climb. And I will carry the water myself for you so that when you're thirsty, I will give you water. I am here for you, and I'm here to push you to that finish line so that you can do it. And I promise you this, that 30 years from now, you'll be telling your children that you made this hike. It will become so memorable in your life that you'll always talk about it. And you'll talk about the strength that you found within yourself and the courage that you found within yourself to overcome the difficulty of the hike and to make it through. Which scenario of which guide would you rather be with? The one who tells you it's all easy and then laughs when he sees you struggling, or the one that tells you the truth? It's a difficult hike, but you can do it. That's what Moses is saying to them. It's going to be a difficult hike. I'm not going to paint a rosy picture and say it's easy, but I am telling you, and I'm begging you to have the confidence in yourself and the faith in God that this can be done. You know, on the subject of hikes, there's this scenic hiking trail in Israel. It's known as the Yehudiya, and it has those steep climbs, and it's only meant for experienced hikers. One day, a 19-year-old girl, her name was Plea, and her 16-year-old brother, his name was Yisrael, said, you know what, we can do it, not realizing that when they say difficult hike, they meant difficult hike. So these two teenagers, 19-year-old and 16-year-old, they're doing okay at first, and then they get to this very steep point where you literally have to climb straight up. Yisrael, who was the younger one, but was perhaps in better shape, he braved the tall climb. He gets to the top of it, and he turns back for his sister, and she just says, I can't do it. I can't do it. She's just too afraid. It's a straight up steep climb. And the brother tries to coach her through it, showing her, here, I put my foot over here, you put your hand over here, I put my foot there. She can't do it. And here they are stuck in the middle of this hiking trail, and he has to go look for help to see what they were supposed to do over here. So he runs to the end of the trail, and there was a sign there for an emergency number in case anyone gets stuck. This is the number to call. And 5 minutes later, two rangers pull up in the pickup truck. In the back of the truck they had a stretcher. They had a thick rope. They had some metal hooks. They've been used to this before. People getting stuck at that particular point of the hike, not able to get up. And apparently the idea was to tie the girl onto a stretcher and somehow with the hooks and the ropes, pull her up the cliff. So the ranger comes and asks, who is this for? He says, it's my sister. Is your sister injured? No, she's not injured. So what's the problem? Mefached, she's scared. She's just scared. So he says, all right, don't worry, stay here. I'll be back soon. And a little while later, the rangers return with Plea, and she's smiling. She's looking as fine as ever. So they thanked the rangers. The rangers got into their car and left. And on the way home, the brother asked his sister, so what was it like being pulled up by a stretcher with the hooks and the pulley? How did that feel? Were you scared when they did that? And she says, no, I didn't end up having to use the stretcher. So how did you get up? She says, I climbed. You climbed? I don't understand. I was begging you to climb, and you told me you're too scared. Now you told me you were able to climb. What did I have to call the rangers for? So she says, no, really, I was very scared. But when these two guys came, the taller one jumped down, so he was where I was. He stood right behind me, and he said, listen, I can take you up in the stretcher, but I'm looking at you, and I believe you can do it. I believe you can do it. I believe you can climb this yourself. So I said, but I'm so afraid. I'm terrified. I'm scared. So he said, look at me. Stare at me. I looked at him, and he says, I want you to think of me this way. Ani choma. Tali. I am a wall. Think of me as a wall, not as a person right now. A wall that's protecting you. So climb. Go up, because there's a wall right behind you, so nothing can happen to you. You can't fall, because the wall is right there. That's me. But you can do it. I know you have the strength within you to do it. And suddenly with that, I felt the strength, let me give it a try. And I did one step at a time, one step at a time, one step at a time, and I made it. When people speak to that within us, when they try to overcome our fear, not by saying there's no mountain here to climb, there is a mountain and it is difficult, but you can do it and I will be here with you. That's what Moses is saying to them. Scott Peck opened his book, The Road Less Traveled, with the words, life is difficult. And as he explains, this is the great truth, one of the greatest truths. It is a great truth because once we truly see this truth, only then can we transcend it. Once we truly know that life is difficult, once we truly understand and accept it, then life is no longer difficult. Because once we accept it, the fact that life is difficult no longer matters. We know that as a fact. Now, how are we going to deal with it? That becomes the challenge. But if we delude ourselves that it's not difficult, that there are no challenges, that life is easy, then most of our life we spend being let down by why did this happen? Because it's supposed to be easy. This shouldn't have happened. This is not supposed to happen. And we spend so much of our time disappointed in life, disappointed in self, disappointed in others because this shouldn't be happening because life is supposed to be easy. Again, I go back to Moses' speech, Shema Yisrael. When he says Shema Yisrael, he means this is a fundamental message. Please let this penetrate in your mind. This is as true as life is itself, that there's difficulties that come along with it. And there are times that you're going to struggle, and there will be obstacles, and there will be fortified cities. So crossing the Jordan River doesn't mean a ticket home. I'm here in Disneyland and of Eretz Yisrael. I can go on any ride I want. No, there are going to be enemies. In 1948, the Jewish people knew that if they're going to reestablish a state in Eretz Yisrael, it wasn't going to be easy. They knew what that meant. They knew it was no picnic. But they also knew the only way we're going to do this is with confidence, with belief, and with emunah that God is with us. And because of that, there's a state of Israel today, far more secure today than it was in 1948. But no one will tell you that it's a picnic going forward. Everyone still knows the challenges that Israel faces, and they face it every single day of their existence. They're stronger now than they were in 1948. They're perhaps stronger now than they ever were before. But it's only because they believed and they had the confidence that although it's difficult, we can do this. Moses says, Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel. First he says, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. God, our God is one, and therefore that one God that is the creator of the entire world, that is the owner of the world, has deemed the land of Israel to be yours and wants to present it to you, but wants you to drive out the enemies that are there. And he's asked you to participate in this battle, and he promises to be with you. That's the Shema Yisrael of Moshe of the book of Deuteronomy. That's what we're studying here. I'll tell you a story of a rabbi. His name was Zev Siegel. Rabbi Siegel was the president of the Rabbinical Council of America. He's the rabbi of Young Israel in Newark, New Jersey. He was a renowned Jewish activist, and he worked relentlessly for Jewish individuals and communities across the globe. On one occasion, the Lubavitcher Rebbe found out that Rabbi Siegel was traveling to a particular country. And the Rebbe called to meet with Rabbi Siegel, and he explained to him that I have a very difficult assignment to ask you to do in that country for me. What the assignment was remains secret till to this day, but we know that he asked him for an assignment, and he said, to do this, it's going to be difficult in this particular country. Can I ask you if you're willing to do it for me? To which he said he would. He got the job done. He did what he was asked to do. When he arrived back in the United States, again, an audience with the Rebbe took place for him to report to the Rebbe about the assignment. And he concluded with this line, I want you to know, Rebbe, wow, that wasn't an easy task at all. That was difficult. And the Rebbe said this line to him when Rabbi Siegel repeated this line in his talks. He said this line has stayed in his life every single day. And this was the line. Since when did you make a contract with God Almighty for an easy life? Where's the contract? You say it was difficult? Every day of life is going to be difficult. There's no contract here. There's no guarantee for an easy life. There's a guarantee for a purposeful life, for a meaningful life, for blessings in life. But easy? We weren't sent here for it to be easy. We could have remained angels up above in heaven. We could have remained souls without bodies in heaven. That's easy. You come down to this world, I know it was by no choice, but nor did God give us a contract to say, and I promise you Hawaii for the entire life on the beachfront. There's no such contract. This portion of Deuteronomy that we studied and continue to study, I want you to know how important of a speech this was by Moses, not just for the Jewish people, but for historically for all powerful leaders. All great leaders took this cue from Moses. That you don't inspire real courage, you don't inspire loyalty, you don't inspire confidence by denying the frightening facts. Because if that is your tactic, then when the lid is blown off your cover, your people will desert you because you will have lost their credibility. Rather, you inspire strength, you inspire determination, by telling people the entire truth and then showing them how they have the tools to confront and to conquer the challenge. Then you've earned their trust. Then you've made them partners in your vision. Then you've shown them that you believe in them rather than you felt the need to hide the truth from them. You allowed them to discover their own true power and you taught them who they are and what they can be, and you brought the best out in them. In the spring of 1940, Hitler Yamach Shemoy was taking Europe by storm. And Germany had taken Poland and had invaded Belgium, France, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands, whereupon Chamberlain resigned in Britain. The Soviet Union was still at peace with Germany. The President of the United States at the time, Roosevelt, did not want to get involved in the war. In all of Europe, there was only one man willing to stand up to Nazi Germany at the time. And his name was Winston Churchill. And in his first speech as Prime Minister of Great Britain given on May 13th, 1940, this is what he said. I would say to the House, as I said to those who have joined this government, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. We have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. We have before us many, many long months of struggle and of suffering. You ask, what is our policy? I can say it is to wage war by sea, by land, and by air, with all our might and with all the strength that God can give us. To wage war against a monstrous tyranny, never surpassed in the dark, lamentable catalog of human crime. That is our policy. An ordeal of the most grievous kind, he says. Where do you get the inspiration for such a speech? Where do you get that idea of leadership, of you put it out there? This is going to be the battle of all battles. We've never seen an enemy like this before, but we're going to fight them by air, by land, by sea. This is literally almost exactly what Moses said to the people of Israel. And with these words, Churchill revitalized the nation. He gave them confidence. He gave them resolve. They knew the struggle. They knew it was going to be a big struggle. They knew they were going to lose a lot of men. But they knew that they needed to defeat this great tyrant and this monster of human history. And they were determined to do it. Now imagine if Churchill would have sugarcoated the challenge ahead. He would have weakened their spirit. He would have dulled their strength. He would have drained their vitality. But by sharing with them the truth and nothing but the truth about the evil they faced, he earned their trust, their respect, And they found the inner power and the resolve within them to be a partner with Churchill to defeat Hitler. Yamah Shemai. I'm going to conclude with one more powerful paragraph of words, literally taken from the cue of Moses of the portion that we're studying. This comes from Menachem Begin. And this comes from 1948. He wasn't prime minister then. He was the leader of the opposition, and he was very much involved in trying to topple the British mandate and the Arabs that controlled the streets of Israel. And he had a radio broadcast. And this is what he says to Israel as they prepare for the Arab attack on May 14th, 1948. We shall go our way into battle, and we shall be accompanied by the spirit of millions of our martyrs, our ancestors tortured and burned for their faith, our murdered fathers and butchered mothers, our murdered brothers and our strangled children. And in this battle, we shall break the enemy, and we will bring salvation to our people, tried in the furnace of persecution, thirsting only for freedom, for righteousness, and for justice. This is how leaders inspire their troops. This is how Moses inspired a people. He didn't promise them an easy ride. He told them exactly what's coming, but he also told them why it's important. Menachem Begin is explaining to these young, inexperienced soldiers of Israel why they're putting their life on the lines, because they carry 6 million souls on their shoulders. That's why we're doing this. Is it easy? No. Do they outnumber us? Oh, yes, they do. Are the odds against us? Yes. Realistically, can we win? No, but we don't live in realistic worlds. We look at the reality, and then we believe in God as with us. And we believe the souls of the 6 million are battling along with us. You hear a speech like that, what does it do to you? What strength does it give you? The courage it gives you, the confidence it gives you. And that's how you win wars. There's a cute little story about a criminal who had committed a capital crime, and he was sent to the king for his punishment. And the king told him he had a choice of 2 punishments. Punishment number 1, he can be hung by a rope. Or 2, he could be taken to behind that big, awesome, dark, scary iron door. And he would have to spend the rest of his life there. The criminal right away said, I'm going with the rope. I ain't going for that dark, scary iron door. The noose is around his head. He turns to the king and he says, by the way, out of curiosity, what's behind the door? So the king says, you know, it's funny. I offer every criminal the same choice, and every criminal picks the rope. So the criminal says, so tell me, what's behind the door? I'm not going to tell anyone. Look, I got a rope around my neck. I'll be dead in a minute. So I'm just curious to know before I go, what was behind door number 2? So the king pauses and says, behind that door was freedom. The door just led to the outside. But it seems that most people are so afraid of the unknown that they immediately take the rope. And that's what Alan Watts says in his book, Our Lives Are One Long Effort to Resist the Unknown. There are many unknowns in life. Some of them are scary. But we have the tools to take the road less traveled and to enter into our promised land. Our people have done it throughout history. The Jewish people have done it back in the days of Moses. Our people in Israel have done it in modern times as well. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but we have the confidence that we're going to get there. So let's take this message into our own lives and the struggles that we have and the difficulties that we have and the Jordan's rivers that we have to pass. And let's understand that it may look formidable and the challenge may look difficult, but we have the tools and we have the belief and we have the faith that we can get through it. And so we will. Everyone have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Again, if you'd like to be a part of our drive-by Kiddush, it's just a gift from us to you this week. Cholent, Kishka, and Kugel, but you do have to call in advance, 818-991-0991, and just say, put me down, and we'll see you Friday from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.